When you go to the doctor, what is almost the very first thing they ask you? Step on the scale, please. Most people don't even think twice about this. But when you really think, what's the reasoning behind it? If you're going to the doctor for strep throat or an x-ray, why is your weight an important factor? The National Eating Disorder website defines weight stigma as the discrimination or stereotyping based on one's weight, especially in larger people. Weight stigma reflects internalized attitudes towards body size that affect how those who are the target of bias are treated. Many of us have preconceived notions of those in larger bodies that are based off of information we have heard throughout our lives that isn't accurate or true. Ever since I started my eating disorder recovery journey, I've listened to multiple podcasts that have discussed weight stigma, fat phobia, and the false information that it is based off of. And a lot of it shook my world up. This propelled me into doing my own research about health and bias against those in bigger bodies and helped dismantle the false information and weight stigma. The purpose of this speech is to educate on how harmful fat phobia is and encourage everyone to help create a society where everyone is treated equally, no matter what their size. I'm going to discuss fat phobia and its negative side effects, weight stigma in children, false assumptions surrounding the health of those in bigger bodies, and how to change those assumptions. If you break the word fat phobia down, it simply means the fear of fat. In our society, it translates into the stigmatization of those in larger bodies and feeding into a diet culture that brainwashes us into thinking that the smaller you are, the more value you hold. According to the June 2018 edition of Stigma's Work and Organization, research has found that 46% of people would rather give up 1 year of life than be in a larger body. 30% would rather be divorced. 25% would rather be unable to have children. 15% would rather be severely depressed, and 14% would rather be alcoholic. While weight discrimination is increasing in America, no legal or social sanctions for this type of discrimination exist. Many individuals who experience weight bias do so from medical professionals. This causes the individual to avoid going to the doctor. According to the December 2017 edition of the Brown University Child and Adolescent Behavior Letter, healthcare professionals tend to view patients with obesity as non-compliant with medication, hostile, having poor hygiene and lacking self-control, and being less intelligent. The way obese patients are treated makes them less likely to seek healthcare, especially preventative care. Because of weight stigma and fat phobia, those in larger bodies also face fewer relationship and dating possibilities, fewer opportunities for jobs, and needing to have clothes specially made as many retailers do not cater to those in plus-size bodies. An article published on the website My Body Is Not an Apology states that, as a result of this society norm, fat people suffer from, among other things, higher rates of depression and anxiety and social isolation, 2 to 3 times higher chance of engaging in suicidal thoughts and behaviors, higher rates of engaging in dangerous weight control and binge eating behaviors, and lower rates of physical activity. So where does weight stigma start? We aren't born with it. Until children reach school age, they usually don't even consider their bodies. Children who are in heavier bodies experience more bullying. The stigmatization has shown to increase psychological disorders in these children that can lead to disordered eating. According to the December 2017 issue of the Brown University Child and Adolescent Behavior Letter, weight stigma contributes to binge eating, social isolation, decreased physical activity, avoidance of healthcare services, and increased weight gain. Instead of motivating change, stigma does the opposite, and it also causes harm, dramatically impairing the quality of life for youth. It also mentioned, as early as preschool, children are bullied for their weight. It continues through school years, and studies have shown that BMI percentile goes up, and so does the likelihood of being targeted by verbal, relational, and physical victimhood. Some parents even bully their children because of their weight, and many children who are bullied by their parents get diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and experience disordered eating to try and control their weight, which later turns into a full-blown eating disorder. From childhood, some individuals face torment and bias because of their body type based on weight stigma, false assumptions, and data from peers, health professionals, and the media. And how does this relate to you as an audience? Well, I'm going to dismantle some of the false assumptions made about weight and teach you how you can be an ally rather than an enemy to those in larger bodies. One of the biggest assumptions about the health of those in larger bodies is that their size determines their health. We've all been told throughout our lives that the bigger someone is, the less healthy they are, which isn't true. There are 4 types of determinants that determine a person's health: social, physical, individual behavior, and biology and genetics. Another false assumption is that the larger someone is, the more at risk for cardiovascular illness and diabetes they are. There aren't any medical studies to prove that, and just because people in larger bodies do have heart attacks, diabetes, and strokes doesn't mean that their weight alone is the cause for it. Causation does not equal correlation. The majority of the time, it is genetic disposition. Social determinants have a large impact on one's health. Some might even say the largest. The availability of resources, socioeconomic conditions, social support and interaction, living wages, and food availability affect one's health more than size. How can the public dismantle fat phobia and destigmatize weight? Medical professionals are the biggest components in weight stigmatization, but they can work towards dismantling it and embrace a health at every size approach in multiple ways. Choosing a variety of images to communicate health and weight. Don't always portray someone in a bigger body as miserable and unflattering where their thin counterpart is happy and loving life. Steer away from terms like fat and obese and use terms like larger bodied and higher weighted person. The term obese is implied as an illness and in many cases is a weight stigmatization. And finally, a medical professional can help fight weight stigmatization by educating themselves with a health at every size practice and adopt weight-inclusive treatments that don't relate health directly to body size. In the article Fat Phobia and Weight Stigma Are Real and They Are Harmful, published on the website Whole Green Wellness, non-diet dietitian Ashley Litwin gives a list on how to fight weight stigma and fat phobia. Do not use the word fat as an insult and avoid terms like overweight, obese, and obesity. Praise people for their behavior and not their appearance. Speak up about weight bias in a curious, compassionate, and respectful way. Be patient with those who are not yet accepting of their bodies or who still feel the urge to diet. And work with health practitioners who use a health at every size approach. And one I added is change the topic when it comes to discussing body weight, yours or anyone else's. There's a lot of other things to talk about. The purpose of my speech today was to inform you about the commonality of fat phobia and how to prevent it in our society by discussing fat phobia and weight stigmatization, how harmful it is in adults and children, and how to combat it to be an ally and not an enemy to those in larger bodies. Remember, size is just one of many health determinants, and people are so much more than their bodies. Thank you.